Greetings, Poke fans! Michael here. Real quick before we dive into the video, just want to take a second to talk about the sponsor for today's video, Opinion Outpost. Opinion Outpost is a really cool site where all you have to do is sign up and start taking surveys for research companies about your personal experiences or opinions or whatever, and in return, you can earn really cool rewards such as Pokemon booster packs, coins in Pokemon Go, gift cards, and lots more. So if you are interested in trying out the site, I have, it's pretty cool. Link is down in the description below. You should definitely click on it and earn some really cool rewards at Opinion Outpost. But now let's dive into the video. Many of you know the famous quote by Karen of the Elite Four. Strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon, that is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. Well, that is complete bullcrap. Okay, the quote is not complete bullcrap. Trainers should try to use their favorite Pokemon. I try to a lot of the time. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that some Pokemon out there they're just too weak. Most any Pokemon can be successful in a playthrough if you level it up enough, but in a competitive battling setting against other real people, there are some Pokemon out there that if you have them on your team and you're battling against someone who knows what they are doing, you just can't win. There are many Pokemon in the Pokemon world that I think are extremely cool, but unfortunately are really freaking weak. So today I'm gonna be counting down the top 10 Pokemon I wish didn't suck, or the top 10 Pokemon that are really awesome, but are also extremely weak, and I wish they were not as weak as they are. I selected all of the Pokemon on this list from the Smogon PU tier in Sun and Moon. Now for those who don't know, Smogon puts different Pokemon into tiers based on how good they are, such as overused being the best other than Ubers, and then there's UU is underused, rarely used, never used, and then there's PU. PU does not stand for two words like never used or overused. It just stands for like PU, the sound you make when something really freaking stinks. Also, sadly enough, several of the Pokemon on my top 10 favorite Pokemon list are in the Sun and Moon PU tier, but I will not be including them on this list because, I don't know, I've talked about them enough already. I want to talk about other Pokemon, okay? So be sure to leave a like on the video, comment below some Pokemon you think are awesome, but really freaking suck, and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, here are the top 10 Pokemon I wish didn't suck. Number 10, Golurk. Golurk is such a cool Pokemon. It's this big, tall, ancient automaton that just crushes things with its fists, and its feet can turn into a rocket booster so it can fly. That's so cool. Also, its shiny I really like Golurk's shiny. I would definitely like to hunt it at some point. Unfortunately, while Golurk's attack stat is sky high and spectacular, the rest of its stats are unfortunate letdowns. It's extremely slow with a base speed of only 55, and its defenses are only a mediocre 80, meaning that it's not going to outspeed Pokemon to kill it, but it also can't take hits particularly well. In addition to that, it's also weak to some very common attacking types, specifically water, grass, ice, and dark, the last of which makes it vulnerable to pursuit trapping, which is pretty freaking devastating. In the end, a Pokemon that hits really hard either has to be really fast to outspeed its threats, or it has to be able to take hits. And Golurk, unfortunately, can't really do either. Number 9, Electivire. Electivire is one of my favorite 4th gen new evolutions of old Pokemon. I think it looks really strong, is a big improvement on Electabuzz and Elekid, and the twin wire tails just make it look like it'd be a really dominant force. Unfortunately, it is not at all. Electivire has great attack and pretty respectable special attack and speed, but unfortunately that's not enough. Its defense stat is bad, its HP is not much better, and its special defense is only alright. And those combined together means that Electivire can't really take hits all that well. Electivire does have a really wide move pool, but unfortunately a lot of its best coverage moves, such as Flamethrower or Psychic, are special attacks, not physical attacks. Meaning that if it wants to get the good coverage that it needs, it has to use its lower attacking stat. In addition to that, physical electric types are just not as viable as special electric types. Because if you look at Wild Charge and Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt is better in literally every way. So physical electric types just aren't going to be used all that much. Electivire really isn't going to be that effective of a Pokemon unless it gets a substantial buff to either its bulk or its speed. But since that's probably not going to happen, Electivire is just... he's going to continue to suck. Number 8, Lapras. Everyone loves Lapras. It is a classic, beautiful, very well-designed Pokemon. But unfortunately, Lapras sucks. And a large portion of that is due to the fact that it is Ice type. While Ice is a cool type, get it? It's cool. Ice type really sucks in battle. Ice only resists other Ice type attacks. That is its only resistance, meaning that if Lapras was pure water, it would be weak to electric and grass types. But instead, Lapras is weak to electric, grass, fighting, and worst of all, rock types, giving it a weakness to the ever-prevalent stealth rocks, which is something that can really draw a Pokemon back. Lapras is also extremely slow, making it very easy to revenge kill, and its attack and special attack stats are only at base 85 each, meaning it's not going to be OHKOing pretty much anything. Lapras is very effective at countering water-type Pokemon due to the fact that it has the freeze-dry attack and the water absorb ability, but other than that, Lapras is just, unfortunately, not any good. Number 7, Lycanroc. I am going to be focusing on Midday Lycanroc for this section since Midday Lycanroc is the one that I like better. And that's really the only reason. Midday Lycanroc is a really cool Pokemon. It's really good looking, has a great design, looks fierce, and I really enjoyed having it on my team in my Sun playthrough. Unfortunately, like all of the Pokemon in this list, it is depressingly bad. Midday Lycanroc is extremely fast and has really high physical attack, so it seems like it would be a pretty effective sweeper. Unfortunately, it has a lot of things that draw it back. For one, its physical move pool is virtually non-existent. The only types of moves it learns that have 70 base power or above are Rock, Dark, Normal, and Fighting. That is it. Lycanroc also has non-existent defenses. This thing may be a rock type, but I'm convinced I could break this thing with a toothpick. Speaking of rock type has 5 weaknesses. So if you don't OHKO something with a Lycanroc, it's going to faint. In order for Midday Lycanroc to be effective, it needs a better move pool and maybe even a slight buff to its bulk. But if we don't get those, then Midday Lycanroc, while extremely cool, is not gonna be seen in any competitive scenes anywhere. Number 6, Tauros. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I've always loved Tauros for its manly bull appearance and its stampeding shenanigans, and in Gen 1, Tauros was a really strong Pokemon. Critical hits in Gen 1 were determined by speed, so since Tauros was very fast, every single time it attacked, it had about a 22% chance to critical hit. And that is awesome. Unfortunately, after Gen 1, Tauros lost that crazy critical hit ratio thing, and it's ended up outclassed by a lot of other better normal types. Tauros does have a really wide move pool, but the majority of those other moves it can learn are special attacks, which Tauros cannot use if you want it to be decent at anything. It does get Sheer Force, which is a great ability, but most of the moves that are boosted by Sheer Force that Tauros gets are special attacks. And as I said before, do not use special attacks on a Tauros. And combined with that, Tauros just doesn't have the bulk to deal with faster threats, because while Tauros is pretty fast, there are also a lot of Pokemon that are substantially faster. Number 5, Typhlosion. Typhlosion is one of my favorite starter Pokemon. It's easily my favorite Johto starter, but just in general as a Pokemon, it's cool. It has a simple, straightforward design that looks really badass, and the fire spikes coming out of its neck they look awesome. Typhlosion just in general is a really fiery, hot Pokemon. But in addition to being literally hot, Typhlosion is also hot trash. Typhlosion's special attack and speed are decent, but every other stat is pretty subpar. In addition to that, its special move pool is also very, very shallow. Very shallow. Typhlosion's best move is also Eruption, which, if Typhlosion has full health, is phenomenal because it's 150 base power stab attack. However, Eruption's power goes down the less HP Typhlosion has, and Typhlosion is weak to Stealth Rocks, which, as we've discussed, really draws a Pokemon back. Hopefully Typhlosion will at some point get a Mega Evolution, or maybe an Alola form that will make it better. Speaking of which, if you haven't already checked out my Alola form focus video on Typhlosion, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment all your thoughts and everything below. Links on the cards, whatever. Okay, I'm done. Number 4, Seviper. I've always liked Seviper. I definitely think it's the coolest snake Pokemon out there, and it just looks gnarly and terrifying. However, in battle, it is definitely neither of those things. Seviper has similar problems to Golurk. It has respectable attack and special attack stats, but its speed isn't good enough to outspeed opponents, and its bulk isn't good enough to take hits. So while you could send in a Seviper to do battle and hit things, it's probably just going to be knocked out before it even has the chance to attack. And that is, well, it's a... Number 3, Lantern. Lantern is a great Pokemon. It's adorable, has a creative design, has interesting typing. It's just a Pokemon that I really like and want to use in a playthrough at some point. Unfortunately, Lantern it's really bad. Lantern has an excellent HP stat, but literally every other stat is bad. It is built to be more like a tank with, not hitting as hard, but better defenses, a bit slower. But those defenses aren't good, and it also doesn't even have access to reliable recovery. It does have good abilities, but those abilities are not as good as Levitate, the ability that the superior water electric type Rotom Wash has, because it gets rid of its ground weakness. Do you realize how sad it makes me that between these two water electric type Pokemon, the washing machine is the better one? Number 2, Tropius. Tropius is such a cool Pokemon that I have always liked. The Apatosaurus has been my favorite dinosaur since I was a little kid, so seeing that combined with Grass, one of my favorite types because of Sceptile and Torterra, and then giving it the ability to fly, that's awesome. Unfortunately, Tropius is the weakest Pokemon we have talked about so far on this list. Like, everything about it is bad. Most of the other Pokemon we talked about on this list so far, their Smogon articles say, like, things it can be decent at in the PU tier, like things like, oh, it's effective against these Pokemon. Tropius's PU article just says, it is a bad Pokemon in PU. A bad Pokemon in PU. That is how horrible Tropius is. Every single one of Tropius's stats is mediocre or bad. Grass Flying type is a terrible typing, making it weak to Stealth Rocks and also weak to common attacking types like Fire and Ice, and its move pool is also pretty freaking poor. You would think this fearsome jungle behemoth would be a serious force to be reckoned with, but sadly, it's really, really terrible, and that sucks because Tropius it's so cool. Number 1, Cast Form. I know Cast Form is a controversial Pokemon. I put it in my top Pokemon of every type video saying it was my favorite normal type, and the amount of comments saying like, this loser likes Cast Form was shockingly high. I know a lot of you think that Cast Form looks like a dismembered head with boobs or balls or a butt or whatever, but I reject that criticism because I think that Cast Form is the cutest Pokemon ever. Look at it, it's just an adorable little ball with a cute little face and a little mask, and it just looks like a water molecule, and it's so cute. Unfortunately, Cast Form is one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon in the entire game. And I'm not kidding. It has base 70 stats across the board, which is horrible. And while its move pool is actually somewhat decent, its stats are just so bad that it can't be saved. Cast Form is so horrendously bad. Listen to what the official XY Smogon article says about it, okay? I'm gonna read it for you. Cast Form is the living proof that if man ever hopes to emulate nature's beauty in its creation of living things, there's still a long way to go. While nature has concocted majestic dragons and serpents such as Salamence and Milotic, all that the top scientists from Yoehn can muster is a disfigured cluster of water molecules that they aptly classified as a normal type and whose entire lower half looks like one huge ass. Not very professional of them. At least they weren't lying about Castform's half-assed battling capabilities. It's a bit harsh. Of all the Pokemon that I really like, Castform is definitely the one that I see insulted and bashed the most often, which is why it is number 1 on this list. Maybe if it was strong, people wouldn't insult it as much and they could admire it for its battling capabilities. But unfortunately, Castform is horrendously, hopelessly weak, and it's probably never gonna be any good. But I still love it. So there we have it. Those are the top 10 Pokemon that I wish didn't suck. Real quick before I end the video, figured I'd just mention the Pokemon that were in my top 10 favorites list that are also in the PU tier that I intentionally decided not to talk about, and those are Luxray, Torterra, and Zebstrika. Really cool Pokemon that are really freaking weak. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What are some other Pokemon you wish were not as weak as they are? Let me know in the comments below! And if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, you should definitely subscribe for more fun Pokemon content of all kinds. And if you enjoy my content here, you should definitely check out my content in other locations, namely my live streams on Twitch, my second channel that is non-Pokemon content, my Patreon where you can get some exclusive content if you choose to support me, and my merch store. It's not really content, but you know, you can get cool MandJTV merch, so that would be awesome. Alright, that's all I have for now, so don't forget to check out Opinion Outpost, and until next time, Poké fans, gotta catch them all!